Ancient Kosala was a land of deep spiritual traditions, but Prince Payāsi was a ruler anchored strictly to the physical. He treated the world as a laboratory, where only the tangible had any right to exist. His rule of law was built on a rigid demand. If a phenomenon couldn't be caught by the human eye, or measured by the hand, it was a fiction. To Payāsi, things like the soul or a moral afterlife were simply ghost stories for the uneducated. This materialism met its match in a monk named Kumāra Kassapa. Kassapa didn't just offer faith, he offered a different kind of logic, one that suggested the human body is a limited instrument, incapable of perceiving the full spectrum of reality. Payāsi was unimpressed. He challenged the monk to produce physical, empirical proof of these invisible realms. He demanded that criminals return from the dead to testify, or that a dying man be weighed in a jar to see if his soul left a measurable dent in the air. The prince had set a specific kind of trap. By demanding physical evidence for things that are, by definition, non-physical, he created a standard of proof that seemed impossible to satisfy. Kassapa began his counter-argument with the story of a man blind from birth. This man denies the existence of light, the sun, and colors, insisting they are myths because he has never touched them himself. This chart maps the gap between what is real and what is visible. The circle on the left contains the objective world. The circle on the right contains only what the human eye is biologically wired to process. The blind man's error is assuming these two circles overlap perfectly. He mistakes his personal lack of data for a lack of reality, ignoring this area where objective existence continues far beyond the reach of his senses. Rather than conceding, Payāsi's questions became more mechanical and more urgent. He shifted his focus from the eye to the body itself, demanding to know why, if a soul exists, a corpse appears to lose no physical weight or substance at the moment of death. Kassapa compared the body to a conch shell found by a villager. The villager expects the shell to sing on its own. He shakes it, beats it, and yells at it, but the shell remains silent and cold. The shell only makes a sound when it is combined with human effort and breath. The body works the same way. The flesh and bone are merely the instrument. They are inert until an invisible vitality moves through them. The monk's point was that all physical mechanics, the very things Payāsi trusted, actually depend on forces that cannot be seen, weighed, or measured to function. By this point, the debate was no longer about truth. It was about the prince's ego. He continued to argue his position even as the logic underneath it began to fail. Kassapa told a story of two merchant caravans. The first leader meets a stranger who promises heavy rain just ahead. Believing the mirage, the leader orders his men to dump all their heavy water reserves to move faster through the desert. The second leader hears the same story, but refuses to throw away his proven resources for an unverified promise. He finds the first caravan dead from thirst, their bones scattered along a path toward a storm that never existed. Payāsi was the first leader. By telling his people that moral consequences didn't exist, he was leading them to discard their spiritual water based on a philosophical mirage. Then came the final story, two friends scavenging for treasure. They find bundles of raw flax. Next, they find woven flax thread. Then they find cloth. Then they find silver. And finally, pure gold. One friend drops his heavy load at every step to pick up the more valuable prize. The other refuses. He spent so much time tying his bundle of worthless flax, refusing to let it go, even when gold is sitting right in front of him. This friend wasn't protecting his property. He was protecting his past effort. He walked away with weeds, not because they were valuable, but because he was unwilling to admit the time he'd spent carrying them was wasted. As the first light of dawn broke over the forest, the long night of arguing finally stopped. Payāsi sat in the quiet, his defensive posture finally dropping. The prince didn't offer a final argument. Instead, he admitted that his worldview had actually collapsed hours earlier, during that first story of the blind man. He had kept the debate going for the rest of the night entirely out of fear. He was terrified of looking weak in front of rival kings and being mocked for changing his mind after years of being a famous skeptic. But he realized he couldn't keep carrying the flax of his pride. He immediately ordered an end to the animal sacrifices in his kingdom and shifted his rule toward a policy of harmlessness. He began a massive charity program, but Kassapa warned him that giving dismissively is still an act of pride. To truly change, the prince had to engage with the world respectfully, giving with his own hands rather than simply ordering it from his throne. Logic can dismantle a false idea, but the facts alone are never enough. Recognizing the truth is only the first step. The real work requires the humility to let go of the ego and actually live by what you've discovered.